What's up, dialysis disciples? So, I got a question for you guys. What's up, dialysis disciples? So, I got a question for you guys, right? How many of you have ever been through something so painful, right? You thought it meant that God was done with you? Like, maybe it was a transplant rejection. Maybe you're staring at this chair again after years of freedom. Maybe you're just tired of the ups and downs and the whole hope and hurt cycle, right? If that's you, you're in the right place today, right? Welcome, dialysis disciples. I'm Troy Sneed. I'm a 25 plus year kidney warrior. I'm a husband, father, grandfather, and a man who's been through two transplants. So I know what I'm talking about tonight. One failed from my own mistakes, and I can own up to them, right? And one failed even though I did everything right. So I'm going to be able to speak to you guys tonight from a perspective that not many of your loved ones can or even understand, right? So I want to walk you through what happens when your transplant fails, but God doesn't. Come on now. Just saying that started getting me fired up, right? Because the truth is, God never wastes pain. Come on now. And the more you dig into his word and the more you have a relationship with him, the more you learn and understand that, right? Every time we fall, he's not trying to punish us. Hear me now. He's preparing us, right? And that's the perspective we're going to talk about tonight, right? So grab your notebooks, settle in, and let's talk about how to find strength the second, and for me, even the third time around. Who's with me? Let's get some ones in the chat if you're ready to dig into this, right? So I'm gonna start this off with a story, right? And it's my story, and I'm gonna just give you little bits and pieces. But if you want the whole meat and nugget, this is the book I wrote my whole story in, and it's based on, my whole kidney journey. The Gifted Tome, the 40-day spiritual fast for dialysis patients. The link is in the bio. Grab a copy, right? So, my first transplant, as we talked about in the last live, right? It came at a time when it was right on time. God put it right on time. I remember walking into the dialysis unit, and I felt like, I don't know how long I keep doing this. And like I talked about last week, not that I was ever gonna like take myself out or nothing like that. I was never gonna do that. But like I was just, I don't know where my mind was gonna go. And just then I got the call that, I'd been called for a transplant, right? But there's more to the story. It wasn't exactly that time at that treatment. And again, I go into the details in the book, right? But that first kidney transplant, right? I got it at a time in my life when I can admittedly state and transparently state that I wasn't walking with the Father the way I should have been walking with him, right? And although I said my prayers at night, you know what I mean? And I knew he was real, I knew he was there, I wasn't living the way that he wanted me to live, the assignment and the purpose that he called me to be here with, right? So, again, I was young. I believe I was 20, 21 when I got my first kidney transplant. Still young, still dumb, running in the same bad circles. And let's just say I lost that kidney due to lack of compliance. And it's wild because it was the perfect kidney. It was a 6 integer match. If any of you guys have been educated, let's do this. If you're here and you're on a transplant list, wave to me in the chat. Or say something in the chat so I know who we're talking to, right? But you go through an education process, and in the education process, they teach you a lot. And again, it's about a lot of information, really no transformation, right? Really nothing that builds you into the person who really can handle the transplant. They come to you from a medical perspective, right? Not from a faith, maturity, mentorship perspective. Does that make sense? Well, anyway, I learned that a 6 integer match basically means it's a perfect kidney. It's almost as if I had a long lost twin brother that I didn't know about, and he died and gave me his kidney. Right? That's how God blesses us. That's how His love shines on us, whether we're prepared, whether we love Him back or not. Right? So, but young and dumb, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I was still focused on the wrong things. Right? I was still focused on, when I was going to roll my next blunt. Right? When I was going to go to the club or whatever, and all that young dumb stuff. Right? How much money I was going to make. Right? And again, in my book, I talk about how I was making that money, and it wasn't in the most righteous ways. Right? So let's just say from there, the kidney went kerplunk. Right? Right? But it was a blessing. Right? I got comfortable. Right? I cut corners on meds, didn't take them when I was supposed to. Probably wasn't eating right at the time. Right? And I thought I was fine. Until I went to my appointment and they were like, your numbers is crazy. Like that kidney, your body's kicking that kidney out. Right? But here's what I said in the post to lead up to this live about the word rejection. Huh. Such an ugly word. Like, why do you have to use that word? I guess when your body is quote unquote rejecting a kidney, right? It's your body working just fine. Your body was designed, right, to get rid of any foreign substances, anything in your body that God didn't put there originally, right? So when the doctors put a brand new kidney in you, your body's like, what is that? We got to attack it. And that's what the immunosuppressant meds do, right? They send signals to your body and they say, hey, that kidney's good, let it go. Don't attack it, right? So when you stop taking those meds, your body realizes, wait, that don't belong here, and they attack it, and it attacks it, right? So failure, rejection, all those words, right? I don't, it is what it is, right? But when you hear the word rejection, I don't want your subconscious mind to be like I'm rejected. Or I did something that rejected it, right? Your body's working just fine, right? But that taught me a valuable lesson, right? At that time, I thought that rejection and failure, like my failure, they would say failure to adherence, rejection, all these negative words that hit you subconsciously that just make you think that you're less than. Who's with me? Who's with me? Any of you kidney warriors here who had a transplant not go well, right? And you're back in dialysis. Who's with me, right? Those words you hear, rejection and failure, they do something to you subconsciously, whether you know it or not, right? So, right, I thought I disappointed God, right? I thought I was being punished for the life I was living, right? But what I found out was He's still with me. Hallelujah, right? Even back in the chair, right? He used that loss to teach me responsibility, right? And honing on discipline and the importance of honoring what He gives, right? You remember what God did with the Israelites, right? Rescued them from slavery, right? Turn rocks into water. Had food falling from the sky. Had a leader like Moses leading them, right? Moses passed, Joshua came, killed Joshua himself. The Bible says this is crazy. Killed 200,000 people. That's insane. I know. Wrap your head around it, right? Right, and all that for them to turn their back on him, right? Right. So what did God do? Did He punish them? Some biblical scholars say yes. But when you see what really happens on the other side of it, right? He sends Jeremiah the prophet. And I'm giving you a whole biblical Bible study lesson here, right? To tell him, yo, settle in. You're going to be in captivity for 70 years. Settle in, right? Make babies. Build a life, right? And that's what He's calling you to do, right? Maybe you're back on the chair. You're back in the chair after dialysis, right? Maybe God's teaching you something like He taught me, right? I don't know everyone's personal story here, right? But I know that He never, ever, ever, ever causes pain without purpose, right? So dig in, settle in. Use this time. If you're waiting for a second transplant, if you're not, right, use this time to get closer to Him. And again, the best way to get close to God is through a spiritual fast, right? In this book, right? And I'll walk you through it, right? So that's the best way to lock back into God if you feel like you are adrift, right? And you feel like this transplant is punishing you. I promise you that it's not, right? So so after my transplant field. So I'm telling you all this, guys, from the other side of it, right? But when I was in the middle of it, like some of you may be right now watching me, I didn't react the way I should have. My life just took a whole dark turn, right? From drug use, womanizing, illegal activities, right? That landed me in prison, all right? And I'm being transparent here for you guys because the Bible says we overcome by the power of our testimony, right? And I know that there's someone on here, maybe watching live, which reminds me, if you're watching live, put team live. If you're watching replay, put team replay. And if you're watching this on YouTube, right, like, subscribe, and do all that YouTubey stuff, right? But what I'm saying is, like, God, He won't, as I said, He won't use pain for punishment. He uses our journeys to build us up, right? And that's what I learned, right? Because when I had to do time, right, I was at my darkest point, right? And I'm not sure about everyone on here, but I know that that's when you hear God the most. The Bible says God is close to the brokenhearted, right? So when we're in times of need and despair, right? Maybe because you just found out that your kidney, quote unquote, rejected, right? And you have to go back on dialysis, right? And you're starting dialysis like I did. That just took me out, right? Right? So that's when you can hear God the most. It took me 14 years, guys. 14 years from the time I lost my kidney till I got another one, right? What do you think God was doing in that 14 years, right? And as most of you know, if you're on the transplant list, you know that they do a deep dive on whether they're going to give you a kidney, and that they have to give you a second kidney. They dig even deeper. So when I did all the psych evals and all the stuff they were following me, I remember when I was doing blood work, like they were testing me for marijuana, right? So, the second time is even tougher, right? But that's just all the more reason to lock in to the Father, right? And let Him guide you on what you need to do in order to get that next kidney, right? So 14 years later, God blessed me with a second kidney transplant, right? My mother was with me. My late grandmother was with me. It was truly a blessing, right? And I got the kidney, and now I'm living better. I'm more mature. I'm a more mature person, right? But I still wasn't all the way connected, right? But look at this is how God's provision works. So most of you know, if you can't get a kidney if you have cancer, right? So I talk about it in the book how I had cancer. I had renal cell cancer, and that added 2 more years to the wait. But after 2 years, I was eligible again. So I got the kidney, and here's some education for you guys who may not know, because I know I have some people on this live who are waiting for a transplant or thinking about a transplant. So what they do is they put a stent in your ureter. Basically, it opens up the vein that goes to your kidney to your bladder, so the urine can flow better, right? And they leave it in for 6 weeks. So when they went in to take it out, they go in cystoscopically with a camera, and when they went into the bladder, I can still see it in my mind's eye, guys. The doctor said, "Mr. Sneed, look over here." I looked on the screen, and there was about 15 tumors in my bladder, right? But here's the thing. Check out how God works. If they had known about the bladder cancer, as you know, it turned out to be cancerous, I never would have got the kidney transplant. And if I never got the kidney transplant, I wouldn't have discovered the bladder cancer. I'll let y'all sit on that one for a while. Coincidence? I think not. That's just God showing me how he works. And that was his gentle nudge to say, hey, Troy, I'm still here. I'm covering you. When you going to learn? When you going to start following the way that I'm telling you to live? Right? Y'all with me? So check this out. The second kidney transplant failed because when they did the surgery to remove my bladder, yes, I have no bladder. Right now I wear a urostomy bag, right? When they did that surgery, after the surgery was complete, they gave me a nephrotoxic kidney. So nephrotoxic is like a medicine that hurts your kidney. That's what nephrotoxic means. So they gave me an antibiotic that basically killed my kidney. Right? What do you think that did to my mind? Right? My mind that wasn't stayed on him. Come on now, guys. Who's with me? I know y'all picking up what I'm putting down. Let me get some fires in the chat if that story just blew your mind. Or give me some mind-blowing emojis in the chat if that story just blew your mind. Again, if you want to read the whole total, how it all went down, get the book, right? But I did everything right that time. I took the meds. I followed the plan. But yet this kidney still, quote-unquote, failed. Still, quote-unquote, rejected, right? What do you do when you do everything right and it still falls apart? That's where I learned that some failure isn't preventable, right? It's purposeful. Come on now, who's with me? Who's with me? Sometimes God allows what he could prevent, right? Come on now, to produce something in you that success never could. Y'all with me? Y'all with me, guys? I hope this is making some sense to you guys. So, that's just the intro. That's just the part one of what we want to talk about. All right. I just wanted to lay that all down with you so you know who you're talking to. And the information I give you today leads to transformation, right? And you know that it's coming from someone who knows what they're talking about, right? Someone who's been through it twice for two different reasons, right? And here I am speaking to you, teaching you how to overcome it, right? Because he used everything I just talked about to get me to this point right here. Right? And I know I keep plugging this book, guys, but it's not like I'm trying to boost sales, guys. I'm trying to boost transformation because this is what happened. When I wrote this book, guys, and I did the fast on 38, he revealed to me my purpose was to get on here and do these things and help dialysis patients, guys. Right? Come on now. This is how I did it. Right? I was working with my business coach today, right? And just FYI, if you don't have, I spilled my stuff. If your coach doesn't have a coach, you're talking to the wrong person, right? But it was so on point because she talked to me about, talking to you guys more about, instead of just pounding you guys and fussing at you guys, speaking at you guys more from love. And that's kind of what my pastors have been talking about, is talking and working with love. In my Bible training, as a matter of fact, Friday, I have a paper due on how I will use love, or I can't remember the title, but how will love affect my ministry? So it's obvious that how God is talking to me, right? And I love you guys, right? And I don't want you to think I'm on here for any ulterior motives but to help and serve you, right? Okay. Now that I got that out, right, I got to ask you guys something else, right? How many of you have blamed yourself, right, for something that's completely out of your control? Is that you, right? We think the problem is the kidney, the medication, the treatment, right? But the real battle happens in the mind and how we interpret the loss, right? Like, And that's why I really harp on everyone to really get in tune with God and know what it is He's called you to do. I did a video some months back called the Seven Purpose Principles. I suggest you watch it, and it basically talks about like if you're still here, maybe you're on dialysis, maybe you're dealing with some stuff, but if you're still here, there's a reason for it, right? God put everyone here for a reason, right? If you're on this channel and you're watching this live, right, you have a belief in the Father, right? So you have a belief in His Word, and His Word said, "I knew you before you were even born, before you were conceived in your mom's womb. I already had plans for you," right? So if you're still here, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Right? I mean, He got plans for you, right? So it's how we interpret what happens to us. Do we say, "Man, kidney and doctors and man, blah 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 blah," or you say, "Okay, Father, this is something I see. This is a tough one, Father, but I'm going to really try to listen to you and see what it is you're trying to teach me in this moment." Y'all tracking? I know y'all tracking, right? Like most of us confuse failure with finality, right? So here's the thing too. So as most of you know, I'm a medically retired from the Marine Corps, and one of the biggest lessons I learned when I got out of the Marine Corps is that failure means something totally different in the Marine Corps than it does out in the world, and how it definitely does in God's kingdom, right? So I guess it wasn't as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, but it was when I started digging in the Word, listening to what the Father's telling me. Like in the Marine Corps, failure is death. Like if you fail at your job, people die, right? So when you go to the Marine Corps and you go to training, they beat that into you. Can't fail, can't fail, can't fail, right? But guys, in reality, failure is just a step in the process, right? You never really, truly fail until you quit. Come on, guys. Hey, guys, I'm getting fired up a little bit. I'm getting goosebumps, right? And that's another thing I talk about in the purpose video is once you're working in your purpose and walking in the assignment that God gives you, that's how you get energy. That's a whole other video. I did a video on energy, right? You get energy when you're walking in your purpose, right? But back to what I'm saying is, but failure is never really failure, right? Especially in God's kingdom. As we explained earlier, failure is just, okay, God's saying, I'm closing this door, but I'm going to open, when you're ready, I'm going to open up another door, a better door, a door to more prosperity and more abundance and more growth in your life, right? And if that second kid, like God exists outside of time, right? We're looking at this whole thing like this happened, now this is going to happen, or this is going to happen. He already seen it. Right, so when he let my second kidney fail, he knew he had a plan, because without that, I wouldn't be before you today, walking in His purpose and assignment. Y'all with me? Come on, guys, leave some fires in the chat. Who's with me? Who's with me, guys? I hope I ain't talking to myself here, right? So I know some, yeah, Patrick, you relating. I dig it, right? So check this out. All right. So we confuse failure with finality, right? Like I said, in Marine Corps, boom, you fail, people die. But in the kingdom, failure is just a God closing the door and opening a new one, right? But a success principle you can learn. So Alexander Graham Bell said, Thomas Edison. He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times at making the light bulb. I figured 1,000 times of how not to do it. Right? So it's all about perspective, guys. You have to shift your mind. You have to shift your mind to be able to, whenever something happens, nothing happens to you. It happens for you. Right? Nothing happens to you. It either happens for you, right? Or it happens with you, right? God is not going to do anything or give you anything that's going to bring you down. It says, Romans 8:28 says, all things happen to the good for those who love God and who are the called according to His purpose. So what does that mean? When you start walking in His purpose and doing what He called you to do, you can quote that and mean it, because you know nothing happens. Everything happens to the good. Nothing's bad. You all with me? All right, y'all. So failure it doesn't mean you're broken. It means God's giving you another chance to learn the lesson deeply, right? God will keep putting you in positions that will show you to see whether you truly learned it or not, right? Not to shame you, but to shape you. Yeah, I like that, right? Yeah, I like that, right? When we miss that truth, this is what happens. We start living out of guilt instead of gratitude. And we talked about that in the video Hope on the Plate. Check it out, right? And like we isolate and push people away that could help us. So when I was waiting for my matter of fact, it might be this one because I'm waiting for a third transplant, guys. Was it this? Yeah, it's this one. Before I had truly started learning my lesson, one of my good buddies, Steve, offered to give me a kidney, right? But my mind was so screwy that I didn't want to accept it because I didn't want to owe him that much. Come on, guys. If that ain't a lie straight from the pit of hell, I don't know what it is. And the only way you can get those thoughts and those spirits out of you, spiritual fast, guys, you got to hear his voice, right? Because without hearing his voice and clearing out all that crap in your mind that the enemy plants in there, you're going to have thoughts like that too. And you're going to think those are your thoughts, and you're going to think they make sense because you're thinking them. And you're the smartest person in the world, and you can't learn nothing, right? But what I learned is that was just a selfish stuff. In my mind, I was such a selfish person, right, that I couldn't conceive of someone being so generous to give me a kidney that it must have ulterior motives, right? And that's a lesson that God showed me through that experience. Y'all with me? I know I'm talking to somebody. I know I'm talking to somebody out here, so I'm going to keep going because it's what God called me to do, right? Also, when we miss this truth about failure, we lose our spiritual confidence and stop expecting anything good. Like one of the guys online I really like to listen to, his name is Myron Golden, and he taught me a very, very valuable lesson. He says, only expect the outcome you desire. Think about that. Like, only expect the outcome you desire. I want to go to A, and then you start planting this. Well, what if that? Or what if that? Or what if that? No. I'm blocking those thoughts. The word says take all thoughts captive, right? Take the thoughts captive. And no, I'm only expecting the outcome I desire, right? And we all know what the word says about expectation and hope. Come on, guys. I'm blessing y'all tonight. I feel the Spirit moving in me right now. This ain't even me talking. This is him. I pray that this is blessing somebody, guys, right? So we only expect the outcome we desire, right? Stop thinking about anything else. So we know that, okay, I lost this kidney. God's going to do something amazing, right? Another one of my business partners, he lived in California when he was in the California fires. And him and his wife, they're deep ingrained in the word. They've been raising their kids in the word since they were little, right? So they lost their house in the fire. Check this out. Their son came to the mom and said, Mommy, I wonder what God's going to do for us now. Our house burned down. I wonder what he's going to do for us now. This is a 9-year-old kid. Come on, guys. That's perspective, right? Nothing bad happens to you, right? It's going to happen. It's going to happen for you, right? So let me get off my soapbox because I'll be here all night preaching to you, right? And when that happens, we rob ourselves. We have the wrong perspective on failure. We rob ourselves of peace, of progress, and of purpose, guys. So what are the consequences of all of that, right? Let me ask you this. Like I used to be a know-it-all. Well, at the time I was being a know-it-all, I wasn't knowing I was a know-it-all, right? So, but how many of you know that when you stop learning or stop trying to learn, life has a way of enrolling you back in the same class? Who's with me? Who's experienced that before? Like, one's in the chat if you experienced that before, if you can think of a time, right? Right. If we don't face the lesson, that God will repeat it until it becomes part of our foundation, because He can't take you to the next level. Like when Meek Mills wrote that song, it's levels to this. He ain't know he's quoting biblical principle, but he was, right? When we get stuck in guilt, we lose growth. When we get stuck in fear, we lose focus. When we get stuck in anger, we lose awareness of his grace. Right? And I could do a whole another talk on grace, but that'll be a sermon, and I ain't here to preach you tonight. All right? But once you realize he's not trying to punish you guys, he's trying to promote you, that's when everything changes in your mind. Right? So, speaking of your mind, I'm going to give you some new ways of thinking. I'm going to give you perspective shifts, new ways of thinking, some mind shifts, some reframes. And we talked about what reframes was in the last video, right? Hope y'all remember what reframe. Put reframe in the chat if you know what reframing is, right? So, let's shift the perspective a little bit, right? I'm going to give you 3 new ways of thinking that help you move from guilt to growth, because we already know that might be a problem for some of us, right? So we talked about it before. Failure is feedback, not the finish line, right? How many of you felt like your story ended the day you went back on dialysis? Right? Yes? Some me's in the chat? Yes or yes, right? I felt that, right? Because that's what I felt like. Like I was too, hear me guys, I don't know, maybe it was the spirit working in me, but I never had the idea of what, like taking myself out. Maybe I was just too scared, but for whatever reason, I knew I wasn't doing that, right? But I didn't value my life at all. I was doing a lot of destructive things, destructive behaviors, and didn't line up. I just went to pure darkness, right? The enemy had his hold on me. And I don't want to get too deep in this because you'll see me just bust out in gratitude tears right here in the live, right? But he reached down. He reached down and he pulled me out of that pit. Right? So I feel you guys. I know how you feel right now if this is you, right? I felt like I was starting all over from everything that I tried to do from 2 transplants, right? But what I found is that God doesn't restart your story, he redirects it. Like I said, like we said about Thomas Edison, every failure carries information. Like what worked, what didn't, what to strengthen next time. Like when you see failure as feedback, you stop judging yourself, and starting to allow yourself to grow. Right? Y'all get that? Y'all tracking? I know you picking up what I'm putting down, guy. Right? So another thing, responsibility and grace can coexist. What do I mean by that? Right? Some of us need to hear this. Like, yes, you have to live right. We know that, right? You got to take your meds, keep your diet, stay consistent. That stewardship matters. We know that. Everybody on this live, God-fearing people, you know that, how stewardship matters, right? But grace says even when you don't do it right all the time, and it don't work out, you're not condemned. I got a question for you guys. I just want to challenge your thinking right now. How many of you think God only blesses us when we get it all right? Now, I gave you the answer to this question earlier in the live. From my experience. Right? So the truth is, God blesses, right? And he also he blesses obedience, I say that. And he also redeems mistakes. Like, he don't throw you away because you slipped. He teaches you through it. Like he has unfathomable amount of love for you. And that's the biggest lesson I learned through this journey. Like, even when I was the furthest away I could possibly be from him, he was still right there. And he's right there next to you guys. All right, so here's the third thing. Support is strength. It's not weakness, man. Guys, everything I'm telling you is from experience, right? I'm not making none of this up. I'm not getting it from a book or nothing, right? This is all stuff I had to learn, right? Support is not like support from family and others and counselors and dialysis coaches, right? It's strength, not weakness, right? And just to give you insight, because I know some of you are there, when I got my cancer diagnosis, I didn't tell my family, I don't know, 3 months. 3 months I got cancer from everyone I knew and loved. Again, that's how it is. Like when the enemy gets his claws in you, You don't even know it. Like most of the world is out there living right now, thinking they're making decisions based on their own thoughts, not knowing that the enemy planted them there. Like when the guy says, I'm going to go in this liquor store and hit an old lady over the head, take her purse, and rob the cash register, right? They think they thought that. No, that's enemy. We do not war with flesh and blood, guys, right? Again, whole nother life, right? But when you have those types of erroneous thoughts, that's my job as a dialysis coach to pull those out of you, let you see that that's not the correct way of thinking, right? So I'm here to tell you now, whether you know it or not, when you ask for help and when you use support, it's strength, not weakness. Sometimes we say, I don't want to bother no one. I don't want to be a burden, right? But isolation is slow death. The enemy wants you alone. That's when he can start digging and planting stuff. And you have no one to tell you that's not true, right? Even Jesus had a circle. He kept 12 disciples by his side so he wouldn't slip up, so he wouldn't let us think, right? That was the human part of Jesus, right? We know that, he was God, so he was never going to slip up because he had a mission to complete, right? Again, a whole nother lesson, right? But when I finally started letting people in, my wife, my mom, my peoples, my boys, even my dialysis team, like everything shifted. Like support gives perspective, like I mentioned. It keeps you grounded when your emotions try to spiral and when the enemy gets his hooks in you or tries to get his hooks in you, right? So here's a challenge for you guys. Reach out to one person this week and say, hey, I could use some prayer and encouragement. Right? Watch how that opens doors for your mental healing. Right? All right, so here we go. All right, I'm gonna put everything in a bow for you. Right? Here's some things you can start doing this week. Right? Reflect, don't regret. Mind shift. Maybe write down what experiences taught you. Right? Not what it took from you. You with me? I know there's a guy that I'm in communication with. I'm not gonna put his name out there. I don't see him on here tonight, but he had some experience with the doctors, and they did some stuff to him, and that really took him downhill, right? And what I've been trying to help him through is, stop blaming the doctors, right? And start shifting your perspective on what's God teaching you from this, right? So reflect, don't regret, and stay steady and consistent, even on dialysis. Keep your body and spirit in shape. Like walk, stretch, pray, read the word, right? And be ready for the next blessing. So I'm going to be doing a masterclass coming up soon. I'll make sure to get it out to you, right? About transplant prep. How to get on the list 2 times faster. What to do if you're overweight or have other diagnoses, right? So be looking out for that. Thirdly, find your anchor, right? Pick one verse that reminds you God's still working, right? Post it on your phone screen or something, your mirror, or your phone, or your live stream. Mine is Romans 8:28. All things work to the good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Right. That's why I know it so easily. I can say it in my sleep. Right. I say that verse. I don't know how many times a day. Like today, I saw my foot doctor, and he wants to go in and do another procedure, so I gotta go to the hospital tomorrow. Right. Am I upset? No, because I know this opens some blessings. Maybe a nurse need a word or something. I don't know. But I know it's a good thing. I don't know if God. All I know is God got me going here is for a reason, and I'm gonna be obedient. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do whatever He called me to do. All right, so I'm wrapping up with a story for y'all. All right, so in John 21, I suggest you go read it. Right, this is part of the gospel, so this should be foundational for everyone on this live. Right, if you are truly a dialysis disciple, you should know the gospels. But remember, Peter promised Jesus he'd never deny him. And hours later, he did it 3 times. So that's like us saying, I'm going to get this transplant, I'm going to kill it, I'm going to do everything I got to do. And then you don't take your meds, right? And when the rooster crowed, Peter wept. He thought it was over because he thought he failed Jesus, right? But after Jesus came back, like Jesus found him in his old job over there fishing. What did Jesus do? He didn't condemn him, right? He cooked him breakfast. He came off the beach and Jesus made him breakfast. Asked him 3 times, do you love me? 3 times for each time he denied him. Come on, guys. right? Jesus, he redeems, right? Your life isn't over because your transplant failed, right? It's just, I'm here to say it's just beginning, right? Maybe he called you to be a dialysis disciple. Maybe you're going to have a channel. Maybe you'll be sitting here next to me telling your story, right? So hear me. If Peter can fail publicly, right, and bounce back and still become the rock that Jesus built his church on, come on now. You can return to dialysis and still live a life of purpose and impact and legacy. Your transplant may have failed, but God didn't. Your calling's still there. All right, guys. That's what I got. That's what I got. Before I go, I got something for y'all. All right, this is the part I want you to listen to. If you remember the third step was about finding support, right? So, how many of you ever walked into... No, let me ask you this. Let's rephrase this. How many of y'all want to walk into your next treatment not feeling defeated, but anchored, right? Knowing exactly what to tell yourself when the discouraging enemy tries to hit you with something. The fiery darts, one of his fiery darts. You got your armor of God on. How to steady your mind and how to sense God's presence right there in the chair because he's close, right? Right now, a lot of warriors are walking through dialysis spiritually unarmed. They don't have their armor on, right? You're doing what you can physically, right? But mentally and spiritually, you're drained. You love God, but it's hard to feel him in all the noise and in the pain and in the pressure, right? What if you could feel peace and power instead of panic? What if you get to a place where, if the numbers don't change right away, you can change, right? This is tough to do alone, guys, right? Because we all have blind spots. Like guilt can sneak back in, right? Thoughts that replay failure and feel that whispers you won't make it. And that's where community and strategy matter, right? And this is what I help kidney warriors do, right? In my hospitality coaching platform, I have what's called a faith and focus plan. It's a simple, personalized roadmap that helps you rebuild strength, spiritual strength, I should say, your emotional stability, even on the hardest days, right? Together, we uncover your triggers. We rebuild your faith focus, right? And you start feeling centered and grounded again. Physically, mentally, and most importantly, spiritually, and connected with the Father, right? So if this sounds like what you need, DM me the word coach or comment the word coach right now. Or if the Spirit's speaking to you, don't wait. And I'll invite you to a quick call, a strategy call. We'll get some clarity on what you're going through. We'll walk through what's weighing you down the most, right? And map out, 3 steps to steady your spirit and strengthen your faith. Right? You don't have to already be strong in your faith to do this, guys. Just one small step. It just takes right now. You go in a comment and type 5 quick letters. If you can get the strength to do it and the courage to do that really quickly before you think about it, imagine what doors he can open for you, right? You don't need to have perfect consistency right now, right? You just need to want to stop feeling the way you're feeling, stop feeling alone and get out of pain. Don't you want to get out of that pain you're in? Right? God put me here to help you do that, right? And I promise you, if you show up and do this, you'll start feeling like a defeated patient and start walking like a prepared warrior. Come on, guys. You'll start seeing treatments differently. You'll feel peace again. Like, I know it's hard to believe, but I look forward to going to treatments because I know when I get to that 4 hours, I got stuff to do for the Lord, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'll open up a handful of strategy calls this week, right? DM me coach or comment coach tonight if you're serious about building, your faith and focus plan, right? While I still have space this week. As I mentioned, I go to the hospital tomorrow, so book now. I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have this week and come up next week, right? So if this message bless you tonight, type value in the comments, please, so I know you got some value from this. And if you're ready, stop fighting empty and start fighting equipped, armed. Again, DM me coach, comment coach, and let's build your plan together. Remember, your kidney may have failed, but your calling did it. Let's find out what it is, right? I love y'all. Stay strong. Stay faithful. See you in the next one. I love you, dialysis disciples.